The Jets will be without quarterback Zach Wilson for a period of time, but the sentiment surrounding the team and its fans is that it could have been much worse. Wilson got diagnosed with a reported bone bruise and a meniscus tear in his knee following an MRI on Saturday in their win over the Eagles on Saturday over the weekend. Now, the second-year quarterback came up limping after making an awkward cut on the end of a 7-yard run, and then when he was not touched by a defender on the play, non-contact issues, people were fearing an ACL tear. Now, we're taking a look at the quarterback roster. Should Wilson be unable to recover in time for September 11th season opener, Mike White and Joe Flacco are the options to get the start. And if Flacco gets the nod, the veteran backup will face his former team as the Jets host the Ravens on Week 1. All right, let's welcome in Tyler Sullivan to talk about Zach Wilson and a few other things here NFL-related wise. So we're talking potentially about a 2 to 4 week timetable there for Zach Wilson, which is already tough because the Jets are trying to build upon and build something, and they already lost Mekhi Becton for the year. What do you make of the timetable and the injury for their quarterback?
Yeah, it's less than ideal for the New York Jets on multiple different fronts. Obviously, they've been dealing with a number of injuries, and the one that you don't want to deal with is at the quarterback position. And so when you look at the 2 to 4 weeks, yeah, that's encouraging because, like you said, it thought to be a lot worse. When you have those non-contact injuries and you're cutting and all of a sudden you fall down, everybody's thinking ACL. Everybody's thinking that's a season ender. So at least from that standpoint, it's encouraging that he's only going to be out maximum a month. Let's wait and see when the procedure happens, when they get in there, actually look at it, probably get a clearer timetable. But this is not the best time for a guy like Zach Wilson to go down because this is still a developing quarterback. It's not like it's a veteran who can come back in and already kind of knows the playbook and knows the system and knows his way around the NFL. He's still a second-year guy, and even before this injury, he wasn't playing particularly well. He threw that interception that I thought was pretty telegraphed. So there is still maturation that Zach Wilson needs to go through, and in that preseason, that training camp is when you can kind of go through those, and it doesn't necessarily count. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, it's not a great timing for Zach Wilson, not a great timing for the New York Jets because you're kind of in this holding pattern. If it was a season-ending injury, at least you could say, all right, let's look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's look at other quarterbacks, a more permanent solution. Now you're kind of just holding water, treading water, and possibly looking at Joe Flacco to help you out up until Zach Wilson's ready to come back.
Outside of the injury, everything you talked about, Zach Wilson, you could probably say the same thing about Mac Jones. And though he had more success last year, hearing about maybe some struggles in camp, didn't play the preseason opener, what's it been like? What more can you tell us about having Matt Patricia and Joe Judge in his ear this year?
Yeah, I think that's been the big storyline going into Patriots training camp is how is this going to work post Josh McDaniels? It kind of feels like there's kind of those two voices in his head, whether it be Matt Patricia or Joe Judge calling the offensive plays. Bill Belichick hasn't said who is going to have that responsibility, obviously not naming an offensive coordinator in title going into the year. That's not totally uncommon in New England. I mean, they don't have a defensive coordinator, haven't had one since Matt Patricia, which is something ironic, I guess, now that he's possibly going to be the offensive play caller for them. In the preseason game, they did seem to kind of split responsibilities, Patricia and Judge. So again, we'll see how that kind of works itself out and whether or not that's going to impact Mac Jones going into year 2. And for me, the someone who's calling the plays and bringing in the offensive plays is almost a moot point at this point. For me, the bigger, more underrated story for Mac Jones and the Patriots is that they're putting in a new offense. Yes, Josh McDaniels is gone, but also they're reshaping the offense. So, yeah, it's fine. Someone different's going to be in Mac Jones's ear. But for me, I'm more concerned about how this offense is going to look going into 2022. As you saw in training camp, every time they switched to 11 on 11s, things went awry. It didn't look particularly great. They were able to put up points in that preseason game, but for me, when the starters were out there, when you saw them in training camp, they really seemed to struggle. And for Mac Jones, who had a very encouraging rookie year, over 67% completion percentage for the year, you almost don't want to move off of that. Listen, he had great in that system. Why change it? So for me, that's more concerning than actually who's calling the plays. It's the actual plays on offense that I want to see be executed.
We'll see. Jones and Kendrick Bourne among those who have referred to that new offense. Mac was saying, quote, "I think we're going to figure it out. That just takes time and patience." Let's stay in the division. We're talking about Josh Allen. Not as many questions certainly about him, although he does have himself a new play caller as well. Of course, Brian Daboll going over to the Giants, and it's Ken Dorsey now. What do we think about Josh Allen? And this time, of course, a team and a guy that has expectations and Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl. And so it's funny to say when they have such uncertainty at a critical spot. Obviously, Ken Dorsey's been in the system, been under Daboll, been with Josh Allen as his quarterbacks coach, the passing game coordinator prior to this ascension to offensive coordinator. But this is still kind of a variable here for a team that, again, like I said, is the favorite to hoist the Lombardi Trophy when it's all said and done. When you have a high-powered offense with an MVP favorite in Josh Allen, you kind of want everything to be smooth and ready to go. And if Brian Daboll was here, you wouldn't be worrying about it. You'd be saying, okay, this team's a juggernaut. They're going to get rolling pretty much out of the gate. And yes, they should be a clear betting favorite. This now does at least open the door for a little bit of uncertainty. Again, like I said, Ken Dorsey obviously been there before, knows the system, is familiar with Josh Allen, but he's going to put his stamp on it. He's going to have a different wrinkle. They've even said in that locker room that he's kind of thrown in a few different things in terms of how they're going to kind of work offensively. So there is going to be a working out process here. Obviously, Josh Allen didn't play in the preseason opener against Indianapolis, but this more than any other preseason, I think, is a time that he should be in it. You know, you see these veteran MVP caliber quarterbacks sometimes not play in the preseason, whether that be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or anybody in Los Angeles under Sean McVay, who they just don't seem to value those preseason reps. For me, at least for this preseason, Josh Allen, I would like to see him in the preseason at some point play to kind of get that rhythm, that in-game rhythm with Dorsey.
Speaking of the rhythm, we're going to let you go. We're talking about the Bills rookies. Now we know Buffalo not part of Hard Knocks, although this would have been Hard Knocks worthy. Some dance moves here. What do you think about, how do we grade this on a scale of 1 to 10, Tyler?
I like it. I'll give it a 10. I mean, come on. That's Super Bowl quality. I mean, we could put them for the halftime show. I don't know if it's Super Bowl shuffle or some sort of Remember the Titans callback, but I like it. I mean, listen, this is an interesting rookie class here for the Buffalo Bills. You look at it from top to bottom. We look at this roster and say they were already one of the best rosters in the NFL going into the offseason before they added the likes of Von Miller and really, you know, I thought hit a home run at the NFL draft, particularly at the top when they draft Kyer Elam, the cornerback, and James Cook in the second round running back for them. I mean, both of those guys I think are going to have pivotal roles going forward. Kyer Elam, I think, is going to be the number one corner for so long as Tre'Davious White is going to be out. He played well in coverage in that preseason game. And then James Cook, you know, for multiple different fronts, fantasy, actual football, I think he's going to be a pretty electric piece in that backfield. So, yeah, they'll be shuffling along. They'll be dancing hopefully all the way to a Super Bowl if you're Buffalo.
And we're out of time, so we saved you from shirtless Backstreet Boys renditions. But if you want to see that, check out Stephon Diggs' Instagram page. Tyler Sullivan joining us here, CBS Sports HQ. Tyler, certainly appreciate it. Pick Six Podcast, our daily NFL fix for you. Host Will Brinson, and this time Pick Six Pod superfan John Breach answering all of your mailbag questions, including how worried should Vikings fans be about the new GM and why the 49ers are trading Jimmy G, and other questions included.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.